how much they will change and get right or wrong. That very thing that audiences seem to get most finicky about at the prospect of reboots. Now, I myself am not going to jump on board any bandwagon of screaming betrayal and griping about every single detail change, like the change from Rafiki anointing Simba with the baobab fruit in the older version to the trailer showing him doing it with red powdered roots, or even the changes in the cast. I am a bit bummed that Be Prepared has been cut from this version, but I'm also not going to be one of those fans who goes into conniptions and says that the makers of this version display no level of understanding beyond surface level, like the complaints about the changes made to the Beauty and the Beast remake, only affirming the negative perception that Belle has Stockholm Syndrome. Because here's the thing. Things that are beneath the surface level are very subjective and usually open to a lot of indifferent interpretations, and I don't want to fall into the trap of coming off as a self-entitled fanboy who proclaims himself a true fan based on his reasons for liking something. And I'm not one to pull the killed my childhood card either, because you know what? I've seen several Lion King spin-offs, and I'm used to seeing their various degrees of change, whether I like them or not. I agree with the general consensus that Lion King 2 Simba's Pride is among the better direct-to-video Disney sequels. And while I personally don't care for Lion King 1.5, I can perfectly understand why other people do. Even with Lion Guard, dumb though I thought it usually was, I could live with it just referring to it as its own thing. But personally, if a movie I love is being remade, I don't want the whole duration of it just coasting off my nostalgia. I saw the Karate Kid remake on the big screen, and during the final act when it was just recreating the showdown from the original movie, it got tiresome for me because it felt like it was just suffering from origin fatigue. But when it was hitting the same beats of the original in the first two acts, where it put its own original spin on it, it was interesting for me. Now, I know a lot of people really got that Lion King nostalgia vibe from watching the trailer and are probably going to check the movie out for nostalgic feels, and that's fine by me. You do you. But I've already got the original and everything else it spawned, and I can just get all my favorite iconic scenes, characters, and musical moments from there. Then there's the argument of, it looks like it'll be faithful to the original. The prospect that the makers don't understand the original isn't among my many concerns with this. I don't believe for a minute that Jon Favreau and his team don't respect the original, nor do I doubt that they understand and are familiar with it. Everyone and their grandmother has seen the original and can memorize it line by line and shot for shot. And see, that is what I'm most irritated by. I'm in the camp of people who are more fed up with the prospect of remakes existing only to capitalize on name recognition. But as cynical as this might sound, that doesn't prove to me that they really understand and care about their properties beyond profit purposes. It all sounds an awful lot to me like the equivalent of a parent who overindulges their child who is the most popular kid in school and for the large number of accolades in his or her trophy case, while giving the cold shoulder to their other child and all his or her best efforts. If you want to convince me that Disney understands and cares about respecting their properties, I say try remaking films that aren't the most popular and actually deserve to be remade for a change. Like The Black Cauldron, where you could give a generous nod to the fans of the original who find the original to be an underrated movie, and you could give the audiences who hated the original an experience that they actually might enjoy this time around. And yes, I know that even though Disney's kept secret about it, a sort of Black Cauldron remake is in the works, as they have acquired the rights to adapt the Chronicles of Bright Dane books. And the fact that there's also the announcement that Disney might do a remake of Sword in the Stone, another one of their underappreciated properties, it also proves to me that they, to an extent, do have that prospect in mind. And that's one I can get behind. Heck, turning to a non-Disney example for a minute, while the rest of the world of the internet, for the most part, was raging over the announcement of Avatar: The Last Airbender being remade like it was the worst thing that could ever happen since the Shyamalan movie, I remain cautiously optimistic and welcome the prospect. Since one of the reasons that the Shyamalan film was so despised, apart from all the other obvious reasons, was that fans considered it a wasted opportunity to expand the the franchise's audience and ultimately prompted Nickelodeon to sweep the franchise under the rug. Maybe Avatar does work best in live action, but I firmly believe that Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko did not agree to do it just because it'll make money. A live action edition might not be necessary, but it could be helpful in broadening the audience or the original series. Lion King, on the other hand, isn't exactly one that I think needs much broadening of its audience with a live action remake. Again, given how the original animated version is one of the few that frequently does get big screen re-releases. And the fact that the original made $987 million when it first came out. Of course, there are cases with films like Beauty and the Beast, which, when it wasn't following the same beats of the original animated movie, it was addressing common online complaints about the original, and bending over backwards to address said complaints only ended up being very significant in the long run. And there's also the prospect that if the remake of Beauty and the Beast was advertised as Disney's most progressive movie ever. Now look, I know that meta-commentary and deconstruction of old tropes is basically Disney's shtick nowadays, and that isn't always a bad thing. It can be very healthy in some instances, in fact. But there gets to be a point where all that meta-commentary just turns to cynicism. And I know that Lion King wasn't perfect in everybody's eyes, so I don't want to sling mud at you for not being a fan of the original, unlike some people I know. So I'm not going to act like all the stuff I've grown up with is sacred holy ground and anyone who dares mess with it is a heretic who needs to be burned, because I'm not one of those people who likes to turn my passions into walled gardens, because more often than not, they might not be as perfect as I believe that they are. But there gets to be a point where too much cynicism becomes alienating to the already existing fans of the original. I go to a movie to have a good and sometimes even thought-provoking time, not just to point and laugh at everything wrong with it. And instead of everything I was a fan of being repeatedly deconstructed to fix any and all details that may or may not have needed fixing, I would personally ask to make progress with something new that brought up subjects of the past that can lead to progression. And if I go into a remake, I want to see something that's not just a regurgitation of the better experience I had with the original, but actually giving me a new perspective I wasn't even aware of. And to anyone who still thinks that I'm complaining about The Lion King being remade because it's messing with my childhood, I can assure you that my childhood was and is just fine. I had more in my life than just a screen to keep me engaged with what was going on in the world. This is stuff that I'm just very pleased and passionate about. And also, Winnie the Pooh and Mary Poppins were also big parts of my childhood. And I've heard some great things about Mary Poppins Returns, and I very much would like to go see it this Christmas, if for nothing else, because the animated and live-action segments just look gorgeous. And I did see Christopher Robin in the theater this past summer, and not only was it a nice trip down nostalgia lane for me, it also provided me with new extension of the story that by the end reminded me of why I loved Winnie the Pooh to begin with, as well as give me a few new perspectives that made me appreciate it all the more. In conclusion, I know that not everybody is me, but the record I'm trying to settle is this. I'm one who wants to go see something because it's good, not because it's related to something I like. As for everyone else, whether you're looking forward to Lion King 2019 or not, please just be civil when discussing these sort of topics. Keep the subject of art and entertainment one that's fun and intriguing to discuss, not one that audiences will always fear of being turned on for expressing unpopular opinions, or where members of the industry will be afraid or unwilling to interact with audiences. Art is supposed to bring people together, not tear them apart. I'd like to take this time to give a shout out to Mark Cabuzzi, who has a series of playlists on his videos depicting his fantasizing of how he envisions a potential Disney remake of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or a film adaptation of Resident Evil, even though both video series are speculations more than anything else. He makes his videos out of a real sense of passion and understanding for the material that he loves. I'll leave links to his channel in the description box below if you're interested. I don't think I did too bad with this video for not being a regular YouTuber. If you like this video, you can leave a like and or comment. If there's anything in this video that you think I missed, or any part of my reasoning that you found rather faulty, then go ahead and leave it in the comments below, or you can feel free to make a video commentary on about me. As long as you're being rational, I'll listen to what you have to say. This is Jacob.